In our last video, we built just a placeholder room for our boss battle. Now it's time to start building some of the underpinnings. We're going to build a system that I'll call the Boss Battle Orchestrator that's going to help us take a room like this, start a battle, close off the walls, start the boss, and when he dies, we're going to present the player with a reward. And once we collect that reward, reopen the entrance and exit to the room.
Hi, my name is Michael. Join me as we build an epic Metroidvania game in Godot 4 using GD script. This is the Metroidvania Forge.
Okay, so here we are. In our last episode, we built this simple arena, and obviously it's kind of lacking a lot of what it needs to be a functioning boss arena. And so today we're going to build an orchestration system. We'll call it the Boss Orchestrator, and it's going to help us make sure that our level is in the proper state so that the player can fight the boss. It'll kind of start the boss fight. It'll have signals for starting and ending. It'll also do things like shut off the entrances if we want to do that, change music, make sure that we give a reward to the player, and if there is a reward, we'll make sure he collects it before we reopen the exits so that he can't, leave without collecting it. And last but not least, we'll also have this orchestrator integrate with the save and load system. So like if we defeat the boss, then it'll be integrated with our save and load. Okay, so those are the things that we're going to tackle. Now, before I get into how we're going to do that, I just want to show you and give you a quick update on what the game is looking like for me. So I'm going to go ahead and run it here, and I'm going to load. Let's see. Yeah, only got one save slot right now. Okay, so you can see I've got a map that's fairly fleshed out. I've kind of traveled through and up and around and into this save room, which is the final save room before the boss room, which will be right here. I'll go ahead and walk over there. And there we go. Boss room, right? Okay, you can see that there. And then just for fun, I've added a simple end game room. It's just another save room. Okay, so kind of cheesy, but it's connected. Now, obviously, this doesn't quite match what we'd want to do for a final game, but I just wanted to kind of close the loop on this. Okay, so that's what I've got. Now, I've only really placed one of the abilities as a pickup in the world. That's the double jump. And honestly, some of these rooms I designed to require probably the dash, but I found that I could barely, if I was precise, get through them with just the double jump. Okay, so I could get to my destination of the final boss here, but I was going to add the dash in one of these rooms over here that I just haven't done yet. Okay, so just something to keep in mind if you're a pixel adventurer tier and you're grabbing this project and you're playing through and you're like, how the heck do you do that? Extreme skill, my friends. That's the answer. Okay, so there we go. That's my map. That's what I'm working with. And let's get into this Boss Orchestrator system. First step is I want you to make sure that you've downloaded the latest zip file from itch.io. It's going to contain a few more assets. Okay, so you should have the Boss Nega Pinkbox Boss Battle music track that we created, or I created in a previous video. There will be a new icon that we're going to use for our Boss Orchestrator. And I can't remember, are there other things in there? There might be a few other things, but those two things we'll use today, okay, as we get set it up for our boss. So let's go ahead and bring those in. I'm going to open my general, let's see, icons folder. And then I'm going to open the itch.io download for chapter 6. Okay, so in here in the icons folder, the only one I've got so far is this. I don't know if I'll be adding much else, but let's go ahead and bring that into the icons folder. And then while we are here, let's see. I've got some sprites. You can grab these and bring these in. We've got, let's see, the worksheets, audio, this Nega Pinkbox. This music is in particular something I'm interested in, but I don't have a place for that yet. So I need to kind of let's create a boss folder. So I'm going to create a new folder, bosses. And in here, I'll create yet another folder for our, I'll just call it Nega Pinkbox Hero, or just Nega Pinkbox maybe. Oh, Hero, why not? Okay, so this is where I can kind of collect things for him. And let's add one more folder. So I'm going to add, let's see, create new folder, one for sprites and one for audio. Okay. We may even need some scripts at some point, but we're not going to be working on the Pinkbox Hero himself today. That's why I'm not super worried about this, but I'll go ahead and just open this and get those assets brought in that we've got available. Okay, so we've got some music here. I'm going to copy, paste that. Oops. We want that in the audio folder. And then we'll go into our sprites folder. And I'm going to grab the sprites here. We've just got those in there. We're going to come back. We're going to use these later. Okay, today is focused on the orchestrator, but now we've got some things brought in, and it's just going to make, our work a little bit more complete. Okay, so there we go. Make sure you've got that. Make sure you've got a boss arena, kind of like mine. It doesn't have to have 2 entrances, but it should have at least 1 if you're gonna kind of mirror the functionality I've got. And once you are there, then you'll be ready to continue on. Okay, now, because we're not going to be using the Pink Box Hero, the Nega Pink Box Hero boss just yet, we're not going to build him. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in just an enemy, an enemy that truly represents the boss so that we can use it for testing. So what I'm going to do here in my boss room, I'm going to add a slime. Which one is slime 2 is probably the one I want, right? That's the one with I think he represents a boss quite well. We'll plop him right here. We're going to make him face left on start. And when we run this, this is our boss encounter so far. Nice little slime. 2 hits. He's dead. Okay, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek. That's going to make it easy to test. But how this orchestrator is going to work is we're going to kind of pause the boss. We're going to make sure that the player enters the room sufficiently before the boss becomes activated. And then once that happens, the room will lock down. The player will have to fight the boss. Once the boss has been defeated, then we will open the room back up again. Okay. And then we'll do a few other things like the reward and all of that. And so it's actually nice to start with a slime. We'll make sure that this works with a basic enemy. And then in the future, we'll just swap the slime out for the actual boss. And this system is going to be, I'm building it so it's fairly modular in some fashion. It's probably going to have some limitations, but you'll see how this orchestrator will be easy to extend to meet your own needs. And hopefully any boss type that you build in the future will be able to integrate with it pretty easily. And the Nega Pink Box Hero is essentially going to be like an advanced enemy. That's really what he'll be, right? But we're going to make it feel more like a boss encounter because of the environment, the music, and everything that surrounds it. Okay. Otherwise, it could just be a really difficult enemy. In our boss folder, I'm going to create another generic folder here, and it'll be for just scripts. So all of our generic boss scripts will go here. This is where we're going to create this new boss orchestrator. So we'll create a new script. And to be very clear, I'm going to call it Boss Battle Orchestrator. Oh my gosh, I think that's right. Orchestrator. Okay, extending node is fine. So this this node is not going to have any positionality if it's a regular node, and that's okay. But I am going to use it to nest boss items underneath, because one thing that this node will be responsible for is kind of destroying anything that's not needed in the case that the boss has already been encountered and defeated, right? So if we beat the boss, save the game, and come back to this room, then when this node loads, it's going to say, check our save system, right? The persistent data, and it's going to check, did I defeat this boss already? If the answer is yes, then it's going to queue free itself and anything that's a child of it, okay? So I'm going to give it a class name though. What do we call it? Boss Battle Orchestrator. Okay. I wish it didn't do these comments. I don't care for them, but that's okay. We're probably not going to need a process. I'm going to delete that. If you decide you need yours for some reason, you can add it back in. But for what we're going to be doing today, not going to be necessary. We will use a ready function. And I'm going to go ahead and use that icon that we've got here. So the icon is this one we just brought in. General icons. Where is it at? It's called Boss Orchestrator. This isn't the greatest icon, you guys. It's not super readable at a small size. Whatever. Make your own if you like, if you need a better one. It's just different. Okay. Some of the basic setup that we'll want to do on this script. I mentioned signals. We're actually not even going to use these signals much, but I think that having the signals is a good baseline, so that if in the future you have a unique boss that needs to be able to do a little bit extra when he starts or ends the boss battle, that is, then maybe you have other scripts that can just respond to these signals of the boss start, the boss end. Okay, so we're going to add signals for that. And so let's see, signal, I guess we'll have battle started, and then we'll have a signal for battle ended. Quick side note, you could very well put these signals in our global message bus system. And in fact, as I was testing this and building it, I had both the local signals here that are part of the Boss Battle Orchestrator script, as well as some new signals in my message bus that I could emit. And what that would allow for is you could have generic nodes that respond to a boss battle without having to connect directly to the orchestrator. As long as there's one present in the scene emitting signals through the message bus, they'll be able to pick them up. And I think that's actually a really good way to handle it. We can add that later if we need to. The reality is because we're really building the minimum scope system right now, the signals are not super needed. It's just a good forethought, and it's a good step to make it more future proof. Okay. I'm going to add one other signal here, because one other thing that we are going to do that, again, we're not going to use a signal for, but you may want to respond to the signal for, is when the player has collected the boss reward. Okay. Boss reward collected is what I'm going to call that signal. So 3 signals, we'll emit them. We just won't connect to them anywhere else. Now, I'm going to go through this script a little bit different than I've done scripts in the past. And the reason why is because I kind of want to just add things as it's relevant aside from these signals. Right now we're getting warnings because we have unused signals. That's okay. We will take care of that. But this is a good start for our script. And then I'll just go through these functions as we begin writing them and as we talk about the necessity or need for them. Okay, I think the first thing that might be kind of obvious that we need to do, if we look at our boss room, we've got the boss himself, right? And we want to be able to control him. So we want a reference to the boss. So let's go back to our script and we'll make an export variable. I'm going to use export variables a lot on this one. A lot of times in recent videos, we've done that really kind of safe kind of coding where we just check for everything, and if we don't have it, we don't do anything with it. We'll do some of that here, but I do want to, instead of trying to look for them using get children or something like that, I'm going to just use an export variable. So you're going to have to drag and drop the different components onto the script, which it's honestly not that big a deal. It's not going to be a lot of work. So the first variable that we'll track is our boss, and I'm just going to make this a node 2D. I don't really care what kind of node. In fact, it could just be a node. Okay, we just want a reference to that node. This orchestrator will not be responsible for the actions or the activity of the boss. It's only responsible for kind of like starting the boss and responding to the boss, the boss death event, if that makes sense. Okay, so those are the 2 things that we're primarily interested in. And because I don't know if future bosses will inherit from enemy or things like that, I'm not even going to go that deep. I'm just going to use a node. And then the other thing that we should plan for right now, we're not going to be able to do much without it, is an area, so that when we enter the area, we begin the boss battle. Okay, so let's go back to our script and we can export a variable for that. And we'll just call it the TriggerArea. And this will be a node of type area2D. All right. Here's what we'll do. We'll start with this boss node. So what we're going to do is in our ready function is where we will initialize all the basic settings for this. So we'll say if boss, then, because we might not have a boss assigned, if we have a boss, then we'll set his process mode. We'll say boss. I'm just going to say bot dot process mode. And then we're going to use the disabled process mode. Okay, which means the scripts are going to cease to function on this, and hopefully all children nodes, because they should be set to process mode inherit. That's the default. Okay, so this is going to disable the boss. Now, if we go ahead and save this, I'm going to go back to our scene. We don't yet have one of these orchestrators, so I'm going to add one. Okay, so this is called Boss Battle Orchestrator. You know what's funny is I built this. I built this in a test project, and the icon worked the first time I used it. Why it's not working now, I don't know. So I'm going to go ahead and restart my project because I just want to make sure that it's working. So I'll be right back. All right, there we go. We've got our little icon showing there. It's kind of confusing. I'm going to take this slime. I'm going to make it a child of my Boss Battle Orchestrator. That is a mouthful. Get a bottle of Boss Battle Orchestrator. Okay, so Boss Battle Orchestrator. We've got a slime. In here, we have these 2 export variables. So I'm going to go ahead and put the slime on the boss right there. Okay. You could write a script that just checks for any enemies. I don't know. But this is a little bit little bit more work for us, but a little bit more foolproof maybe, or a little bit less specific coding. Okay, so what should happen now? The only thing we've written is the ability to disable the slime. So what should happen is the slime should just be standing still. Let's go ahead and see if that happens. Okay, there we go. He's not doing anything. No animations either, because we set process mode to disabled. So depending on your needs, you may need to adjust that. But I think that's good. I think this is a good start. Really, ideally, the boss will probably be at the edge of the screen. So as soon as you enter the area, he can step into view. Okay, that's a good start. Now, you know what? Something I didn't mention, but it's not too minor. I'm on version 4.7.1 at this point, and I know 0.2 will be out probably pretty soon with some minor bug fixes. For me, the project has ran, I'll say, without any issue. I had some errors at one point, and I even changed a script that seemed to resolve them. But then when I tested my mirror version, I didn't see the errors, and I came back to this one and I removed my fix, and I've been running without error for a couple days. So if you have any issues upgrading, I suspect whatever I was experiencing was related to a resource, like a file that was maybe removed or something like that. But other than that, which didn't break the game, it just gave me some errors in my output. It's been running great. So you should be able to upgrade your project to 4.7. You know, depending on things that you've done outside of the tutorial series, as you've explored, you might have some minor things to fix. But I've been really impressed with all of the 4.x versions. I think for the most part, if you're making a pretty standard game, then your upgrade experience has been pretty seamless. Okay, so we've got this boss. He's paused when we start. Let's work on this trigger area. The next step, right? Make him come alive. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add an area 2D as a child of my Boss Battle Orchestrator, and then we'll assign it here so it's connected. This area 2D, of course, is going to need a collision shape. Now where is it? Oh yeah, the collision shape needs, and the collision shape needs a rectangle shape. Okay. I'm going to grab this area. I'm just going to drag it down here. And then I'm going to make the collision shape larger so that we can't really avoid it even. I'm going to make it go all the way up. Okay. So obviously we don't have any script to make this do anything yet. Now this is where I will do some kind of automatic. One thing that's going to be really frustrating, and this is because of how I set up the project. Our player is on layer 5. So if we're trying to detect collision with the player, then we would need to come in and set our mask to layer 5. We could even turn off layer 1, that, and do this. But I'm going to assume that we forgot to do that. I'm going to go into our script here, and we'll just handle that in our ready function. So we'll say if TriggerArea, right? Because we might not have one. Then we'll do this. We'll first set our collision area for the player layer. So not our collision. We want to set this set collision mask value, because the mask is the one that controls what layers we're checking against. So that's layer 5, and it's true. Now layer 5 might be different for you if your player is not on layer 5, but you can see here, player is layer 5 for me. Okay, so this is going to enable detection with the player. Now we don't have to worry about checking that box. And then the only other thing we need to do is just add an event listener or signal. Check the signal for when we have a body enter. So TriggerArea.body entered, and then we can connect that, and we'll make a new method on body entered. And I know it doesn't exist. Thank you for telling me, though. Very friendly of you. Okay. Now, typical stuff here, because this is a body entered signal, we're going to be receiving a body, which is a node 2D. And I'm gonna write this so it's less presumptuous. I'm gonna just check if my body is a player. Okay. And then if so, we can start the battle, do whatever we need to do. Now, for right now, let's go ahead and just do this. Let's just go ahead and make our boss enabled again. We're going to change this bit of code, but we'll just set this to process mode inherit. We want inherit so that he pauses with the game. So now I guess what will happen is we should be able to walk into that area, which is somewhere around here, right? And the slime should start walking. Very good. Okay, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Now, because we're going to want to do more than just enable the slime or the boss when we enter it, let's go ahead and create a function that we can use to begin or start the boss battle. And what's handy about this is if you ever have a boss battle that needs to start through some other mechanism, maybe you don't have a trigger area, right? If you don't include a trigger area, you can never start the boss battle. But because we'll have a function here to start it, you could have some other script. Maybe you've got an animation player that plays an animation, or a cutscene system that plays, and then at the end, it can manually or directly call the start boss battle, right? So this is going to be handy for that, and so that we can kind of conglomerate, bring all of the boss start stuff into one function. I still get questions about why I put pass in here, and it's just a visual thing. I just like how it looks. I worked with a guy, C++ programmer, who put a return at the end of everything, even if he didn't need it, and it was kind of a similar thing. But I like pass because it literally means you don't have to do anything, whereas return, it's like you got to check, am I supposed to be returning a value? So I like pass. I just like it. Okay, guys. So if you can fight me if you want. I've already said that before. I'm not gonna show up to a parking lot to fight you about it, but you can try. Okay, so start boss battle. Let's just take this right here, move it here, and then here in our on body entered, we'll just call start boss battle. The other thing I want to do in here is I don't want to accidentally call this again. So we're going to take our trigger area and we're going to disconnect. So in fact, we could just go like this. We could say this whole line of code up here, we can copy and paste it and just change this to disconnect. Add a dis to it. I'm going to disconnect from you. Okay. Now we can only trigger this one time. Once you start a boss battle, then this area 2D stops triggering. We could also disable monitoring and stuff like that. I'm not too worried about that though. Okay. So there we have it. The only other thing I'm going to say about this is we should still check for our boss. Okay. Just because we might not have it. Pretty much anywhere we're going to be interacting with any of these export variables, I'm going to nest it in an if statement so that we can check that it exists before we try and alter it. That way we won't run into any errors. I guess you could let it error out and then you'd know that you didn't assign a boss. That's up to you. We will add one additional line down here, but not right now. Okay, so all we've done is just kind of wrap that code up. Let's just make sure it's still functioning. We should still be able to activate the slime by entering the area. There we go. Okay, and no errors. We've got some debugger warnings, but I think it's all just the unused. Oh, this is interesting. This is in a different script. Closing that for now. I'm not going to look at that. I'll have to solve that later. Okay, so we've started the boss battle. Why don't we do this? Why don't we make it so we can end the boss battle? And then what we can do is we can go through and we can add more functionality to both the start and the end, bit by bit. So how we're going to do this, and your mileage may vary. If all of your bosses are going to be an enemy, then you could hook to the boss.destroyed or whatever, defeated, whatever that signal is that our enemies have. I think it's defeated or destroyed. But I'm going to assume that some of my bosses, in fact, I plan on one of the bosses that we build in this series not being a node that inherits from enemy. Maybe I will change my mind and make him an enemy, but I'm just going to assume it's a node. And so I want this to be fairly flexible. So I'm going to say boss dot, and there's a signal that we can hook to. And using this signal assumes that we're going to queue free the boss when we defeat it, no matter what type of node it is. And what it is tree exited. Okay. Or actually there's a different one that we could also use, and it's exiting. The difference is tree exiting will get emitted like the last frame of the node, but while it still exists in the scene tree, tree exited will mean it was just queue freed the last frame. Okay, so if you want to be able to have access to the boss, then this one's preferable. If you don't care to have access to him, you could do exited, and it's going to be just a minor, super teeny tiny fraction of a second difference in execution, one frame. So we're going to go tree exiting.connect, and what we'll do here is we're going to use our end boss battle. And this is a non-existent function, so let's create it. There we go. let's go ahead and print a message so we can test this. Boss battle ended. So good. Okay. Oops. I just ran. What did I run? The slime. Just close that. Don't need it. Run the boss room. Okay. So we should be able to start the boss and kill him and see a printed message in our output window. 2 hits to kill that boss. A little bit of a pushover. Such a nerd. Let's see what happens. Boss battle ended. Okay. So that is functioning just fine. So that's the tutorial for today. Thanks for following along and congratulations on being super cool. Yeah, not really. We're going to do a little bit more, but that is working. So I like that. I'm going to just keep that in for now. Now, before we dig into these too much, I want to talk real quick about them, make sure that the loop makes sense, and then we'll kind of emit our signal. So we're doing a very simple thing. We're waiting for the player to enter this area, which means that that area is required. We're not indicating that. We could if we wanted to. But as soon as the player enters, we're going to call our function to start the boss battle. Okay, so this function will be responsible not only for enabling the boss, but doing things like playing our music, closing off the level, and anything like that that we need to have happen. And then this just is done. It's a one call. The trigger area gets disabled, but we do connect yet again to another signal. And in this case, it's to whatever node we've assigned as the boss. Okay, and then we're just looking for this tree exiting. It's a generic signal on all nodes in Godot, and this will be emitted by the boss, the frame that we call queue_free on the boss. Okay, so we're connecting to that, and then we're just calling this end boss battle function. So now you can see why I'm calling this an orchestrator. It doesn't control the boss, but it kind of sets up to and will respond to the defeat of the boss. Okay, so let's go ahead and connect or emit our signals here. So we've got a battle started. So we'll say battle started dot emit. Okay, now we're making use of that signal. And then at the end, we'll do the same with the battle ended dot emit. Okay. Timing of these might become important in the future. Right now, we're calling them at the beginning of the function. It's not going to make a big deal. If you are to ever introduce to your start or end boss battle function something that's asynchronous, meaning you're awaiting, like maybe you want to play an animation, or I know we don't have a cutscene system yet. I can't promise this right now, but if we add one, then we could integrate that here. But you might want to await for that cutscene to finish. Okay, so if you're doing anything like that, you may want to consider moving your signal emitting to after that. So it would make sense that if you're having other things in the level respond to the beginning of the boss battle, you might need to wait until after a cutscene, right? Not necessarily, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. Same with this battle ended. Okay. But we'll just leave them at the beginning during our video today, and it should be sufficient. Again, we're not going to hook to them, so they're not fully tested on my part, but they're just there. They're there for future selves. Let's do an easy one. Let's handle some music, okay? So right now, if I look at my music auto trigger, I'm playing dungeon music on this level, and I think music is playing. Yeah, it is. It should be playing. I'm not sure if I'm hearing it. I'm going to listen here. I've got Flaming Lips playing in the background. Okay, so we've got dungeon music, right? What we want, though, is we want for that music to transition when we begin the boss battle. And likewise, when we defeat the boss, maybe we want it to transition again. So I'm going to use 2 separate export variables for this. So down here, I'm going to make a new category, export category, and I'll call it boss music, I guess. And we want 2 export variables, and they're both going to be audio streams. So we have our boss track. Whoa, what did I do? I meant to hit underscore boss track audio audio stream, and then post boss track. You know, when I was building this, I considered just storing whatever track is currently playing and going back to it. But then I realized that might not be what we want to do. Whatever, you can do one or the other. So what we're going to do is we're going to have these 2 export variables, and then before we assign them, let's go ahead and just hook up the code. It's really going to be straightforward. So I'm going to come down here to start boss battle. And I'm going to leave this boss thing here at the end. Okay. So I'm going to put this here. Now, there are two ways we could handle it, two general ways we could handle this. We could check to see if we have a boss audio. And if we don't, then just leave the whatever audio is playing. And for the boss music, I'm tempted to do that. But I'm going to just play because I want to be able to have silence as an option. And if we check for an audio assigned, the way we get a silent audio track is to pass in a null value. That's currently how we're doing it. So I don't know. I'm just going to call audio play music. So we've already got our audio system, and then we'll just pass in the boss audio or boss track. Okay, that's all we need to do to play it. And then when the boss battle ends, it's the same thing, right? Except instead of passing in the boss track, and let's see, put this down here, we'll pass in the post boss track. Okay, I had to pause my music so I can hear this better. Okay, I'm going to run the scene. It's not going to work yet. Before it's going to work, we do need to assign these, right? So for boss track, let's go ahead and make a pink box boss wave. And then for post, let's assign one for now. We'll assign, oh gosh. We got dungeon, we got forest, we got title. I'm going to just put title in there so it's different. Okay. So we should hear the music change 2 times. We're on our dungeon wave. It's a little quiet. I hope you guys can hear okay. Okay, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to kill this guy. Or when we fight him, he should change. I think I need to boost the volume on this track too. I mean, I have my music volume turned down, but that one's kind of quiet. Okay, so when I defeat him, it should change. Yeah, we're all victorious and stuff, man. Okay. Let's test one other thing real quick. So I mentioned I wanted to be able to play no music, so I'm going to do that just to the post-boss track. I think it'd be fun. You defeat the boss. Now the room is silent. I feel like that's a thing that people do in games sometimes. Okay, here we go. Room is silent, peaceful. Rest. Rest, dear slime. Okay, anyways. Abrupt transition. I kind of ended that last bit like really abruptly. Music's working pretty good. I want to do one other thing that's kind of... I'm not going to use it for this boss battle, but it's optional, so it'll be fine. And what we're going to do is I'm going to export a category for camera bounds, level bounds. Something like that. So I'm going to export 2 variables again. I'm going to have a boss level bounds and a non-boss level bounds, okay? And boss level bounds. And I'm going to use a level bounds. We've created a node that does this kind of stuff. We're going to have to make a modification to it though. And then we'll have like an original. Okay, we're going to have these 2 export functions. Let's look at our level bound script. Now the thing about these level bound scripts is we do this on ready. Which means if we have 2, they're going to fight with each other. Okay? And we don't want that. We want to have some level bounds that are passive that we can just call and have them activate when we want them to. And then the standard level bounds, the default behavior will be to just, when it loads, set the level bounds. Okay? So we're just going to make a minor modification to this script. 2 minor modifications. And essentially what we're going to do is here in our ready function, everything from here down, this code here, we're going to move it to a separate function. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. We'll just make a new function and we'll call it set camera bounds or something like that. I think that's, man, I cannot type today. I know some of you are like, I can't type ever. Oh. Okay, level bounds. We're not going to change this code. We're just moving it. And then what we can do here is we'll say set camera bounds. We need to do one other thing. So we're going to still do two things. I'm just adding things. I just keep adding things. We're going to do 500 more things. We need a variable like a Boolean, a checkbox that we can check on this or uncheck if we want it to ignore the default behavior. So I'm going to say export variable, and then we'll say set on ready. I don't know if this is the best name, but by default, we'll have it true. Okay, so this set on ready, and if I save this, now any level bounds in our game is, oh no. Why is that not defaulted to true? Let me check something. Let me open a different level. Like, I feel like that should have, I don't know why. Okay, so I just need to load a different level. Any level will do. 2D. Oh, what gives? That one's checked. Let's check a couple more. Level bounds. Okay, set on ready. Check. So we want that on by default. It looks like it's working, except not in our boss room. Why? I don't know. Reset it. There we go. Okay, so hopefully this doesn't break anything. Really, we're going to use this functionality for the bosses only, and then you can use it for other things in the future if you want to. But let's go back into our script. So we need to check for this, because if this is false, then we don't want to call set camera bounds. Does that make sense? We could add a condition here, or we could just combine it with this condition. I'm going to just combine it. So if it's editor hint or not set on ready. Okay. So if we uncheck set on ready, it's not going to do this. Okay. Now I want to do one last thing, and I'm not gonna step through this a ton. I do want to change how it draws. So if we uncheck that box, set on ready, then I want it to be a different color so that I can distinguish them in the level. And what we've got down here, see how we're drawing a rectangle and we're using these two blue colors? I'm just going to plop in some code. I'm going to just replace this, and then I'll talk about it real quick. Boing. Okay, most of the code is the same. We've abstracted the color and we've assigned it here. Same colors, color 1 and 2 getting assigned. Now the only real difference aside from adding these colors is we have a condition here. So if this set on ready is false, then we update the color before we draw. Okay, so it'll be kind of orangey reddish color if it's not set on ready. Okay. Now, I think the only time we're redrawing these is when we change the size. So, do I really want to do this? On width and on height change. Do I want to try and call one of these? I'm just not going to worry about it. No, I am. Okay, set equals, let's add a setter. On bool changed. Okay, so we're going to just make... See, guys, I just keep adding stuff. I can't help myself. So what we're going to do is we're going to have like the new value, which is a Boolean, and then we'll say set on ready. Set on ready equals, not minus, equals new value. Okay, and then we can queue redraw this line of code here. So that means anytime we change this value, because this is a tool script, it's going to call the setter function. The setter function is going to queue a redraw. And of course, it's going to set the value. Okay. We have to do this in Godot. I know people have asked about that. And when we assign a setter value in Godot, then the default behavior is that it no longer sets the value automatically. We have to do it manually in our setter function. Okay, so what should happen? Let's look at... if I were to take this level bounds and uncheck this, it'll turn orange. And because I unchecked that, this is just our regular level bounds for the level right now. I'm just testing with it. If I run the scene, it shouldn't set my camera bounds. Yeah, you can see that, right? The camera's like, I don't like the bounds. The bounds did not speak to me. Okay. The camera bounds are now set from the previous level. We're not going to... Okay, but obviously with this level bounds, we don't really want to do that. Okay, back to blue. But we do want to duplicate this level bounds, and I'm going to bring it down into my Boss Battle Orchestrator. And you know what? I'm not even going to use this, you guys. I'm doing this as a demonstration of how you could do this. Some boss battles, this might be needed. But it's also going to introduce a little bit of jank. Okay, so I'm just going to make it, I don't know, let's make it not see the edges, just so it's obvious, I guess. Okay, so it's narrower, and it's the same height. Okay, and then on this one, we'll uncheck set on ready. So now the main one will function, and this secondary one will not, but because we've separated this code out, set camera bounds, we can call it manually. Okay, and so that's what we're going to do from our Boss Battle Orchestrator. Let's just go ahead and make sure our level still works. Our bounds should function again. Yeah. Okay. Let's come into, I'm going to go ahead and close level bounds. Our Boss Battle Orchestrator. We'll come down to our start boss, and right here somewhere, if, what are we calling this? Boss level bounds. We haven't assigned any yet, and we have to remember to do that. So if we have boss level bounds, then we will go boss level bounds dot set camera bounds. Okay, and then I'm going to copy this, and in our end boss battle, more or less the same thing, except here we're not going to call the boss level bounds. We're going to call the original level bounds. I don't like how it did that. Original. Okay. So here's what we do. We come back to our scene. We need to assign the level bounds to as our boss level bounds. In fact, maybe we rename this to boss LB so that it's super obvious. Yeah, there we go. It's assigned as our boss level bounds. And then for the original level bounds, we'll just take this guy up here. Voila. Let's revisit that script real quick. So you see, we're just calling the set camera bounds. We're just going to do it manually. Now, I don't have camera smoothing on, so this could be jerky. I hit the mic. This could be jerky, and that's one reason why I don't really care to use it. I think if you turn on camera smoothing, it'll look fine. I could be wrong. We could test that. Let's go ahead and run the game and see if it works. Okay, so right now the camera can go all the way to the edge, and then we put the new level bounds right along this line, this wall. So ready, oh, there it goes. See, now we can't go past that point. And then if we kill him, boink, it popped back to the regular level bounds. But you see that jankiness? I don't really like that. And this arena doesn't really need us to confine the camera. But before I disable this, I do want to test. Let's go into our player scene and let's just kind of test that real quick. So player scene. We've got a camera in. This is the camera is in here somewhere. It exists within the player. Camera 2D. Bum, 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 bum. Let's turn on position smoothing. And let's go to our boss room and let's test this out again. Okay, it's got smoothing on. You see how it's slowly following the player? Oh, it still was herky-jerky. Huh, interesting. Let's try that again. I don't think it's going to not be janky like that when it starts, but I wonder how it does when it ends. I'm going to let the slime come over here. He's so slow. Okay, ready? Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to deal with that right now because I didn't prep for it. But we could probably just do like a tween. We can calculate what the offset is, like what our current position is, and then what the new position is, and maybe do a tween using the camera offset. We could do something like that. Okay. But I'm going to turn off position smoothing. I don't really want it on for my game. I'll go back here. But if you had a much larger level and this secondary camera bounds was in a large enough space that it didn't do that when you started the boss battle, then you would never see it, most likely. Maybe when you end the boss battle, you would. But I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. And it's not going to break anything, right? Because we just simply don't do anything if we don't need to. So make sure I'm telling the truth here. We'll run the game. Okay. No boss bound change. No level camera change. Okay. So we're all good there. But if you feel like you need that, there's like the basic inception of how you can do that. Okay. 2 more basic things I want to do, and then we'll wrap it up probably with the save load integration, unless I think of more stuff. Okay. We want to block off the entrance and exit. And I'm going to do this through a pretty simple means. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate my tile map layer. I'm going to call it like boss tiles. I don't know why I used the underscore there. I'll keep the naming convention. Boss tiles. I do want to clear this out. Nobody's responded to me from that last video. Is there a way to do this without the manual? Okay. So now that should be empty. If I drag it around, nothing. Okay. I'm going to bring the boss tiles down here to my Boss Battle Orchestrator again. Having these nested is going to become important. So that's why I'm doing that. We may need to adjust where like Z indexes manually to get this to stack where we want it to. That should be okay though, because this needs to be on top anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to draw a version of the map, or draw over the entrances to cover them up with wall. So I'll just drag and select a portion of the wall. Get the undo the eraser and putting on the penta tool. 1, 2, 3. Maybe too much. Did I get that good? 2? Yeah, whatever. Okay. Yeah, I do need it all the way down there. So you see how this is covering up that wall. Now, if we run the project right like this, then I don't know if our player's going to get stuck in the wall or kicked out. Not ideal, but we'll deal with that because we can just disable. Now, in the past, we've used physics and we've disabled collision. And if you had invisible tiles, then you could do that. But disabling here disables both collision and rendering. But we're not going to check this manually. We're going to do that through code. And then we can hide it if we just don't want to see it while we're working on the level. So I need to do this on the flip side as well, right? Because we need to block both entrances. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and draw 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now we need to go into our Boss Orchestrator script, and I'm going to go ahead and we'll just export yet another variable. And I'm actually going to just do this up here. I'm going to call it boss tile map or something like that. In fact, we can make this plural. We can do multiple if we want. So this could be an array of tile map layers. Now, there is one other drawback to doing what I'm doing here, and that is that we're not going to have like a cool animation when these appear. We're building the basic orchestrator right now, not a highly polished one. Okay, so let's just get this working, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so we've got boss tile maps, and I'm just going to go ahead and keep this in line there. And then what we can do here in our ready function, we need to do this right away. So in fact, I'm going to say for t in boss tile maps. So if we have any, then we'll go through each of them and we're going to go t dot enabled equals false. Okay. So by doing this, we should be able to disable these via the code. So I've got boss tiles. I'm going to just drag it onto my boss tile maps. Oh, no, I'm not. Oh, look, it did. That worked. That's fun. Wow. I was going to say increase it to 1, then assign it. But I learned there's a shortcut, master. Okay, cool. So when we assign this, then what will happen is these tile maps should disappear when we start. There we go. Very good. Okay, now they don't enable just yet. We haven't hooked that code up. Pretty simple though. It's going to be this. Copy that. Then we're going to go down to our start boss battle function. And, right about here, we'll set this, except here we're going to say enabled equals true. And likewise, in our end boss battle, we'll do the same thing. going to try and keep the same order. What did I do? After level bounds? Yeah. So here we'll go back to false. So now we should have doors that close and then reopen. Okay. Doors are open. Let's walk over here. Boom. Doors are closed. Be fun to add a sound effect. I think that's going to be a piece of homework I'll give you. You could also add particles or some form of animation using the animation player to do that. And you could even await with the animation player before you enable these. And when we defeat the slime, entrances are open again. Very good. Now the boss is still back. That's a flaw. That's that save and load. We're going to get that last. But I mean, we've kind of come and integrated most of the things we need. There's one more thing I want to do though before we handle the save and load, and that is a reward. Not all bosses need to give a reward, but you know, it can be buggy and or frustrating if it would be a terrible bug if you could defeat the boss, the reward's sitting there in the middle of the floor, and you leave the room and now that reward despawns and you come back and it's gone and you can never get it again. We definitely don't want that to happen. And we don't even want you to be able to leave the room and then have to come back, because what if you leave the room and you get yourself in trouble and you die and now you got to beat the boss again because you didn't pick up the reward, right? I mean, I don't know. So we're going to handle that by forcing the reward if there is one to be gathered before we move on. Okay, let's go back to our script. As I mentioned, I want this victory reward to be optional, but I am going to just have an export variable for it here. We just call it reward, I guess, right? Now, this could be specific. I'm just going to call it a node 2D. Okay. And you'll notice we've got an unused signal. We'll handle that. Okay. So a reward. What we need to do is let's go in here and let's assume that when we defeat the slime, we unlock our greatest ability, the morph roll, which I don't know, whatever. So I'm going to just come in here. I'm going to do a shift control A and I'm going to do ability pickup. This could be something simpler. It could be a heart. Could be a health up, whatever it is, right? But this ability pickup will be fun because I think this is actually a fitting reward, right? For beating a boss is to have some sort of pickup. Now we've already built this, so you have to attack it 3 times to acquire it. And I'm going to set it to the morph roll, okay? Now, obviously, if we run the game, this pickup is just going to be there, okay? But you've probably guessed the pattern that we're going to implement, and we're going to follow that for the most part. It's very simple, but we are going to make the reward pickup just a little bit more nuanced. Okay. Let's go ahead and in our Boss Battle Orchestrator, since I've got a pickup, let me assign it to the reward export variable. We'll save that. And let's go back to our script. Now, the first thing I want to do is in our ready function, if we have a reward, we need to disable it until after we defeat the boss. So we'll say if reward, and then we'll set our process mode and visibility. So we'll say reward.process mode equals node.process mode disabled and reward.visible equals false. Okay, this should be enough to hide it and prevent us from destroying it. Now, if you've got something that's got collision attached to it, you may have to take extra steps to disable it here, okay? Or maybe you move it off screen, or you don't add it to the scene to begin with, but you just spawn the node through code. That's an option too, right? Just spawn it. But I like this method because I can place it and see what it's going to look like in the game. Okay, so whatever. Okay, so we've got a reward. It's placed in the scene. It is assigned. Contrary to how we've done other items, in Start Boss Battle, we don't need to do anything with the reward. We only need to in End Boss Battle. And what I want to do, let's go ahead and just assume that we just give them the reward. Okay, I'm going to put it right here. I guess what we would need to do is we just go if reward. Let's copy this. Okay. If reward, then we just do the opposite. We set this to true. And we set this to inherit. Okay. And what will happen is when the boss battle ends, this will enable. But this is going to put us in that state where we could potentially miss out on the reward. Ta-da! Okay, it popped in. Now we can collect it. Or we could leave and come back. If save and load was working and we had killed the boss and we didn't pick up the reward, you've got a choice. Do you make a more complicated system where you track if we've collected the reward and drop it again? You could totally do that, by the way. Not hard. Or alternatively, we could do what I'm going to do, which is going to be make this kind of required for leaving the room, okay, for finishing the boss battle. And so how we'll do that is we're going to just add a weird line of code in here. We're going to make this end boss battle function asynchronous, meaning it's going to stop and wait without pausing the game execution. And it's going to wait for us to collect the reward or for the reward to be handled. And so I'm going to say await, and then we're going to call this deliver reward. Okay, which doesn't exist. So let's cut this out and come down here and let's make a function called deliver reward. And actually, instead of returning void, we'll have it return a Boolean. This is important. We'll paste in our reward code here, and then we'll return true. Okay, now this doesn't do anything different. That we do have a weird thing here. What is this warning us about? It doesn't like await keyword is unnecessary because the expression isn't a coroutine, but it will be because we're going to add an await here. Once we add an await to this deliver reward, then it will become a coroutine kind of function. Okay, but we're going to first build in here if not reward, then we can just return false. And then that means if we don't assign a droppable reward, then this await will just, it won't actually await. It'll just check, oh, we don't have a reward. Okay, keep going. And then the level bounds will reset and yada, yada, yada. Otherwise, if we do have a reward, then it's going to continue on down here. So it's going to enable the reward. But before we return true, we want to wait for the player to pick up the reward. So this is where we get tricky. And I'm going to use the same kind of approach that I used for the boss. So if you recall with the boss, we're just checking, or we're just waiting for that node to be freed. And we're using a special signal. You remember what that signal was? Yay, that's right. It was tree exiting. I didn't even remember it. Okay, so here we go. We're going to await reward dot tree exiting. Weird, right? So we're going to enable this reward, and then this function is going to wait for that same node that we enabled to exit the tree. And then once we do, we can return true, but we got to do one other thing. This guy, boss reward collected. Let's emit the signal so that in the future, if we want to use it, we can, and we get rid of the warning. Okay. So that's deliver reward. So let's look at where we implemented that again. End boss battle. So we emit that the battle ended. We may want to move this after deliver reward. I think that's going to be up to you guys. I'm also unsure about the general order of these. I think I want the boss music to stop. So I'm going to cut that and paste it before deliver reward so that it can play the peaceful quiet and the reward is sitting there. And then once we collect the reward is when we will reset our camera bounds if needed. And it's when we will remove that tile map, disable that tile map that's blocking us, okay? So it's not going to unblock until after this returns something, okay? So if we save this, let's go ahead and test our uniquely challenging boss battle. Okay, so we should be able to... Hey, look, we got a heart. Yay! But you'll notice music stopped, reward is sitting there. I still can't leave the arena until I collect it. Boom, there we go. You notice as soon as that disappeared, the walls opened up. And now we can't miss the reward. Obviously, we can fight the slime numerous times. I got it. Come from this side. Okay. But hey, guys, we're almost done. We're almost done with this baby. Save and load. I think we've covered everything except save and load now. in order for save and load to work, we're going to add, I'm going to copy a function that we used like on our door and switch system. So down here, I'm just going to come to the bottom here, and we're going to add this unique name function. Okay, so what this unique name does is it returns a string. It's going to get the resource UID's path to the owner scene, which in this case is going to be boss room. And then we're going to append the name of this node, which is going to be Boss Battle Orchestrator, or if you rename the node, it'll be that name. And then it's going to also add the name of this node. Oh yeah, no, that's that right here. Parent unique name. Oh, it's going to be boss room. So it's going to get the path, and then it's going to say boss room / boss battle orchestrator, whatever those names are. Okay. And then we're going to save that just like we did with the door and switch. We'll save this to our persistent data. So we just need to do that, I guess, in our end boss battle, right? Once we've beat the boss, defeated the boss, we can save that. And I don't know if it matters too much where we do it. I'm going to go ahead and just do it right here at the beginning, even before we collect the reward, because we're not going to save this yet anyways. We're just setting it. So I'm going to go save manager dot, and then we're going to say persistent data. And then if you recall how we did this in the past, is we just access the persistent data using our unique identifier, which will use the unique name. And if that string doesn't exist already in our persistent data, then it will create the record. And we want to set the value to defeated. I think I want double quotes there, not single. I don't know why I did single quotes. I'm messing this whole thing up. This is such a failure. Defeated. Okay. So then it's going to have that string, right? It's going to say whatever the UID is / boss room / boss battle orchestrator equals defeated. Okay. And now we can check that in the future. Obviously, let's go ahead and well, we can't, we're not saving that. Let's do this. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and beat our boss, and then let's go save our game and see what happens. Okay. So I'm actually going to run the game proper and load my save slot 1. How am I in here? How am I in here in the save slot? Did I hit F5? Dang it. You guys saved over my save slot, you guys. Okay. Does that mean I have all my abilities? It does. Whatever. Okay, so we'll come in here. I got to disable that F5. It's a bad thing. Okay. So now if I go to the final save room of glory and wisdom, save my game. Let's go ahead and open the user data folder here. And I should have a save 1 file. And in here, there's going to be some persistent data right here. And you see how it says morph role acquired. And then it says, here it is, UID, blah, 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 blah. That's the UID of that scene. The name is boss room. And then it's the boss battle orchestrator is defeated. Okay. So we are saving that. That means that if we run the game, load it, we should be able to make the boss disappear. Now, we haven't coded this yet, so it's not going to work yet, right? There's this line. But let's hook that up. That part's fairly straightforward as well. So we're going to come up to our ready function for this one. And the order that we do these is somewhat important. No matter what, we want to disable our boss just in case, especially if he's not nested underneath the orchestrator, because he might not be. For me, he is, and I'm going to intend to keep it that way, but just in case, we'll keep that. Okay, so we're going to do all this stuff. What we'll do, though, is somewhere, in fact, I mean, we could do it up front, or we could do it at the end. If we do it at the end, then that ensures that even if these items are not nested under the orchestrator, they'll still get disabled. So this is probably the safest place to do it. So we're going to say if save manager, and then we have .persistent data, and then we're going to say get or add. We've done this before. We did it with the door and switches. What get or add does is we provide it a key, meaning the first part, right? The first value of that key value pair. That's confusing. The key is the first piece. And then we can provide it a default value. And so in this case, we're going to get or add our unique name. And the default will be just an empty string. Okay, so that means if we check our save data and this does not exist, where is it? If this doesn't exist, then it's going to create it, but instead of saying defeated, it's going to look like that, right? Just an empty value, which is fine. So we're going to say, okay, if this is get or add, if we can get it, we'll get it. If not, we'll add it. And then it'll return that value after we add it. But if it gets it and the value is defeated, then we know we've already been here. We've already done that. Been there, done that. You know what I mean? Okay, so we've defeated the boss. In which case, we can queue free this whole thing. It's going to queue free the node. So this is the nice way. That means that if it queue frees this node, all children will get freed as well when that happens. So we could just leave that as is and it would probably function well, so long as this stuff gets added. But as a fallback, we have disabled a bunch of things. So even if these are not nested under the orchestrator, they should have at least been disabled. So maybe no harm, no foul. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that, I guess. Okay, so what'll happen now is if we run the game and load it and go back, then the slime should be gone. Because we've already defeated him, right? There we go. No slime. If you can't do the slime, then don't do the time, as they say. Okay, so there we have it. This is the Boss Orchestrator, and I know that it's fairly straightforward and kind of rudimentary right now. Homework. This is where homework becomes important because I don't know what you guys want the orchestrator to help do, okay? But as you're working on this, you can think, do I want to add animations? How could you add animations? You could attach an animation player and maybe assume that it has a start and an end animation and do similar checks. Okay, so if we have animation player, then let's play in our start boss battle. You could play the start animation, and you could even then await for the animation player to finish before you continue on with the rest of the start function. So you'd want to put that maybe at the beginning, right? Or wherever it's appropriate. Then you could do the same with the end. Maybe you want to add sound effects. Maybe you want to integrate something else. I'm going to leave a lot of that up to you. Now in the future, I can't promise what I will do, but I do intend to do at least a little bit more because I kind of want to polish that up a bit, right? And that's what chapter 7 of this series will be, is kind of the polish and final bug fixing and things like that. So I may refrain from doing anything else with the orchestrator until then. Now, important things for this orchestrator to remain loosely coupled and easier to work with, you probably don't want to tie too closely to the boss. So when we start building our actual Nega Pink Box hero, he's going to be fairly self-contained, or maybe completely self-contained. The only thing that the orchestrator is going to do is stop him and then start him, right? And then respond to his death. Now, another thing that you might need to consider is if you're going to try and integrate animations or some other kind of cutscene, then you're probably going to need a new player state, because right now the player would be able to continue to move during said animations or cutscene. And so I think a simple way to handle it would be to create a state for your player state machine called like in cutscene or something, and it's equivalent to the idle state, except that there's no exit condition. You can't push buttons, you can't perform any action. And then what you do is you probably use the global message bus system or something like that to send a signal to the player, or you could store a reference to him in the battle orchestrator, and as soon as the cutscene's done, then you set him back to the idle state manually. Okay, there's things like that you could do, but that's all homework. I know that's a lot of homework, but I believe that if you've been following along this far, that you're ready to start tackling some things like this on your own. And so I really want you to try that. Go ahead and drop in the comments what you're doing. And of course, if you run into issues, comments are a good place to go, but even better would be to join the Discord channel. We've got a lot of people in my Discord, Michael Games Discord, that want to help. We've got channels dedicated to this tutorial series as well as the action RPG series, which people are still watching. And then we've even got channels where you can just create your own topic. start your own conversation about what you're doing with this. And I guarantee if you do that, you'll get at least a couple guys that are going to want to do it with you and help figure it out. And if I'm available, I'll hop in there as well. So the link to the Discord can be found in the description. It's free to join. Just hop in there and become part of the community. And otherwise, I hope you're looking forward to starting to build the Nega Pink Box. I'm going to have a little bit of break. I still have a lot of rough edges with him that I need to work out before we build them together. So stay tuned. I hope it doesn't take me longer than half a week or so to get ready for that. It shouldn't be as long. I've had a lot of breaks. If you're watching this in the future, it's all there. But those of you who've been trying to follow along in real time know that I've had some vacation and some other obligations that have just kept me from the series. So I apologize, and I'm grateful for those of you who've stuck around. So like, subscribe, comment below, and as always, we'll see you next time.